Hi guys, hello and welcome to another Microsoft Word tutorial. Today we will learn about how you can work with columns in a Word document. For example, I would like my document to be in multiple columns, so I have selected the text that I want to convert to multiple columns. By default, you land to on the Home tab. You should go to Layout tab, so click on the Layout tab. Then on the left-hand side in the Page Setup group, click on Columns. That's where you can see 2-column, 3-column, left and right options. If you want to see more options, you can go to More Columns, and this dialog box will pop up. This is where you can see the same choices as we saw earlier on, or you could custom define by saying, let's say if you want 4 columns, right? As soon as you hit Tab, it will tell you the spacing of them, and there is a scroll bar that allows you to scroll down. As you can see, equal column width is selected by default. That means all columns will be the same width. If you want, let's say, to go to 2 columns, but you want the column number 1 to be 4 inches and column number 2 to be different inches, you have to make sure that you first uncheck this checkbox. Only then it will make this option available to you. So now let me change this to 4, and it automatically changes the other one to the remaining space. So this is how you can control them. You can also add more spacing between the columns if you want to do that. You can also apply some other properties to the columns here, but we will talk about that once I am done with this one. So as you can see over here that as soon as I did this, it automatically applied the section break on the heading, and the rest of the items were considered to be one section. So whichever items I selected. Anything past my last item, that's where the section break was applied. So this bottom piece is considered to be a different section. Now let me undo the changes here, and I am back to the normal. Now that I have undid these changes, let me show you one more thing that you can do here. Let's say if I select only this portion, these 2 paragraphs, and I go to columns and I go to 2, notice only these 2 items automatically convert to columns, and it applies a section break right here and a section break right here. Also, one more thing is that if you are in the middle of a paragraph, let's say I put my insertion point right here, and I go to the columns and I go to more columns, it now allows me to choose from the options below here, as you can see in the drop down box, that you want the whole document to be converted to columns, or you only want from this point onwards. Okay, so if I choose 2 and then I say this point forward, and I click OK, notice everything from that point forward is converted to 2 columns. So that's another thing that you can do. Another thing that you can do over here is that you can go back. I put my insertion point right in the middle of the paragraph. I go to columns, I go to more columns, and then I choose 2 columns, and then I choose this point forward, and then I choose Start New Column. So now when I do that, it jumps it. It just ends the section. It jumps it to the brand new page, and that's where it starts the new column from. Okay. Now let me do one more thing here. Let me go to this point in the document where the word this controller is, and let me go to breaks, and then let me apply that I want to insert a section break, which is a continuous section break, as you can see right over here. Okay? Now I'll go right in the middle of my first paragraph, and I'll go to columns, and I'll go to more columns, and I will now click on this point forward. Notice it gives me one more option here, this section only. So if I go 2 columns and I go this section only, and I click OK, so only that section is converted into columns. Okay. If I do not want my heading to be part of the selection, I can just go to the end of my heading, and I can apply a section break right here by going to break and continuous, and now I come down here on the 2 paragraphs that are between the 2 section break. If I go to columns and more columns, 2 and I say, okay, I want this particular section, click OK. So only that section is converted into columns. Section above and section below remain unaffected. Similarly, if I am right at this point and I go to columns and I go to more columns, remember my insertion point is blinking. I didn't do any selections. I'm choosing 2 columns, but instead of this section, I'm using this point forward and click OK. Notice that this section was affected and also the other sections were affected, but unlike the previous time, I was not pushed to a brand new page. So these are a few things that I wanted to talk to you about in this tutorial, which I didn't talk about in the previous tutorials. So again, remember, it's under the layout, under the columns, that's where you find all of these items. And then one last thing, you can choose line between, and that will give you a line between the columns as well. But since it applied on this section break, it did that. If I do it on the entire document, I can also do that. So for example, I go to columns, more columns. Instead of this section, I say whole document, line between, and the whole document has the line between. Okay, so it's up to you however you want to build your page or in columns. It's totally customizable. Let me know in the comment section below if it was helpful, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.